Now, I've said this before and I'm going to say it again. Ford's Sport line of vehicles is one of the most amazing things that's ever happened to the brand and in the market, because the Sport line, when we reviewed the Everest Sport before, and the Territory Sport featured a lot of exterior aesthetic details that I absolutely love. But this one right here actually features some sport features that you're going to be interested in. What's going on, guys? Roy Robles here from Zigwheels.Ph, and I am excited to review today's vehicle, the Ford Ranger Sport 4x4. Now, on the outside, the Ford Ranger Sport 4x4 wouldn't really be, doesn't have a lot of differences from the regular Ford Ranger, except of course this part right here. The Ford Ranger Sport features this blacked out grille. It removes all traces of chrome that we see on the other trims, and I truly appreciate that. I mean, when I first saw this, I thought, what variant is that? It still features this C-clamp LED DRL design. You've got LED headlamps and fog lamps right here. Definitely doesn't feel like a mid-range variant. In fact, if you compare this to the Ford Ranger Wildtrak, in my opinion, I'd probably choose this one because of how simple and badass it simply looks. You've got a skid plate design right here at the bottom. It's definitely plastic, but you've got a really aggressive bash plate right down below, so that in case you go off the beaten path, this can take you there and back, no problems. You won't find any cameras right here because it doesn't have any 360-degree camera system or cameras up top, because it doesn't have the advanced driver assist systems as well. Now, if there's one detail that I would definitely change with a Ford Ranger Sport 4x4 are those 18-inch alloy wheels. I mean, they look okay, but they definitely don't fit the aesthetic of the Sport line, in my opinion. The Ford Everest Sport, the Ford Territory Sport all had blacked out details and murdered out colors of those mags. But in this case right here, the two-tone machined look is okay, but it would have been better if they were blacked out. You also have two 65 R18 tires right here. These are just highway tires, but you can always replace them. You know, you truck guys, you always customize your cars, you customize your trucks right here, and this is definitely a great canvas for you to start with. Now, you've got a really chunky stepboard right here at the bottom. You got 235 millimeters of ground clearance and 800 millimeters of wading depth, which is more than enough for you, of course, to go through any floods or any small rivers that you want to take out the Ford Ranger Sport with. You got these blacked out side mirrors for the repeater turn signals. Now, one thing that we noticed that it's a Sport variant, it would have used a great sport bar right here in the back. But in this case, it doesn't have one. You probably buy one yourself. And this part right here. Now, you would probably be thinking, what's that for? As you've seen in our review of the Ford Ranger XLT, it just makes it a lot easier to get inside a car. Oh, all right, that's nice. Now, overall, the side profile of the Ford Ranger, in this case the Ranger Sport, features the same details. I like how it has some subtle creases right here on the side. It gives me the impression that it is macho, muscular, without being curvy. The boxy design really gives it away. Now, the rear section of pickup trucks is probably one of the easiest things to design because it's just a metal bed with some space inside. But now Ford definitely wants to take it up a notch with this bad boy right here. You've got the Ford badge right here. It's a big, large badge. You got the camera. It's got a rear camera. The 4x4 badge, Sport, all blacked out, nice. And of course, the now iconic Ranger badge stamped right here at the bottom on the sheet metal. And yes, that is metal. You got the same design for the tail lamps right here that kind of mimics the front end, which is nice. And of course, a lot of space. If you notice, it's got the really nice looking mud guards right there. I like that. And the tailgate, it's nice and damp, so it's easy to lift if you need to put in some heavy items inside. There's no problems. You got some mounts right here on each side, so that if you have a lot of people who want to use their Ford Rangers for work purposes, of course, just mount some stuff in there, easy peasy. And you've got a lot of space here in the back to put all your stuff in. Also, the Ford Ranger Sport lacks some outside auxiliary accessories, like it doesn't have any exterior charging ports there. But again, you probably won't be needing it, or as a truck guy, you can install it yourself. But it does have a pre-installed bed liner, which I know you guys absolutely love. All right, so if you want to convince your girlfriend or your wife to get a truck, but you know, they're telling you that it doesn't have any cubby holes or spaces inside, show them this in the Ford Ranger Sport. There you go. You got some extra holes right there to put all your stuff in it. It's not gonna be much, but at least it's something, and Ford is trying. Inside the Ford Ranger Sport, it definitely resembles or is very similar to the other Ford Rangers in its lineup, and that's just a good thing because it's the same as the top of the line Wildtrak and even to a certain extent the Ford Ranger Raptor, except of course it doesn't have all these contrast that you got on the dashboard. But this one is a clean look and I absolutely love it. You got this nice square horizontal dashboard right there with some shelves. You got this vertically positioned touchscreen infotainment system with both wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. You got a nice sound system inside as well, which is a surprise for a mid-range truck like this. You got 6 speakers all in all. I'm glad that Ford was able to put some nice physical dials right here at the bottom as well, so that you can control your AC and your volume, but your volume knob is there right as well. And you got a nice, nicely designed air vents here for the AC, which is of course much appreciated. You also have a fully digital gauge cluster here. You can get all the information that you need for your drive, and you can even change how you can view it. Just nice. You do have a temperature gauge and a fuel gauge on each side right there, which you can take away. All right, so at the bottom here, even though this is a mid-range truck, you still have a wireless charging pad, which is of course just logical because you have wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. Might as well give us guys a wireless charging pad, a USB-C and USB-A port. And yes, since this is a 4x4 model, you got this drive selector right here. You can choose between 2H, 4H and 4L, and some buttons here as well for your downhill assist, and a drive selector mode button here. You can choose between normal, econ, towing and haul, and slippery. And of course, for you guys out there who would want to take this off the beaten path, this has a rear locking differential for more off-road moments, and of course traction control button right there. This has a 6-speed automatic transmission, which has a nice selector right here. It's a manual shifter. I mean, it's not a manual shifter. It's not an electronic shifter where you got to change the gears with dials and stuff. It has a nice chunky shifter. It's right there. And one thing I don't like about this though is that the drive selection here with the PRNDM, they don't light up at night, so it does take some sort of it does take a little bit getting used to, but at least you can see what gear you're at right here on the display. But it's just a shame that it doesn't light up at night. Now, one thing that I know a lot of you guys miss is a manual emergency brake. You got it right there. So unfortunately, this thing does not have automatic brake hold though. So that is, well, it's going to be something that you have to deal with in traffic. But as it stands, this is a man's truck, or should I say, a very manly truck. We got here a nice center armrest here. It says the center armrest is not padded, but at least you have a lot of space inside, as well as the position for the 12-volt socket. Now the leather-wrapped steering wheel is it's not a D-shaped steering wheel, thank goodness. And you can find all your control buttons right here for the media and digital gauge cluster. You can find it right here on the right, and your cruise control buttons and your volume buttons right here on the left. Steering wheel is adjustable for both reach and rake, and your seats, both for the driver and the passenger, are manually operated. Again, I really appreciate that, especially for a truck like this. You don't want to wait getting or grabbing your optimal driving position in this one. Now here, the door cards, it has soft touch material right here, as well as on the outboard armrest. You do have some interesting design patterns here on the side. It just adds a little bit more texture to the touch. And my favorite part is the USB port right here behind the rear view mirror. Easy for you to install a dash cam without having to snake through wires here inside just to lead to the 12-volt socket that's right here in the center armrest. So you can just plug it in right there, and you won't create any mess out of it. All right, overall, the interior of the Ford Ranger is definitely it's very functional and at the same time very modern. A lot of truck owners will appreciate the easy to clean interior right here. The dashboard is plastic, but that means it's only easy to clean, and you do have some nice soft touch materials where it matters the most. So yeah, this is very workable and a very modern looking truck. In fact, one of the most modern looking trucks out there, despite the fact that this has been released, what, 2-3 years ago. Still really holds up well despite the new competition. Let's take a look at the back and see what we have right there. Now, before I forget, modern trucks these days and SUVs do have these grab handles on each door, making it easier to get in. So you do have a stepboard out there, but getting some extra leverage to get inside is appreciated, and the Ford Ranger Sport does have it, and I like it. All right, so the seats are padded in a way that are similar to the front seats here. They're firm, but at the same time supportive, but not overall that hard, but it's definitely fine. If I want to take myself out on a long trip or an out-of-town trip, and I had to drive right here, or I had to ride right here in the back, this is an okay place to be in. It's just that I don't have a lot of space for me. This is a truck after all. Trucks are meant to be work vehicles or activity vehicles. It's just that if you have a rear seat like this one, I would have appreciated if it had more room, but that's just how trucks are. You have a huge hump here in the middle. That's for, of course, this is a 4x4 and it is a truck, so don't expect any flat rear floors. No USB ports, no aircon vents here in the back, but you do have a solitary 12-volt socket so you can charge all of your devices. Good visibility, by the way. That's one thing that I appreciated about the Ford Ranger. It has good visibility for both the front passenger, the driver, and the rear passengers. So yeah, this is workable if you were not 5'10.5" or more like myself and Ash over here. All right, so that's enough of that. Let's take this out for a spin and see what changes this has over the over other Ford Rangers that we've driven. And yeah, let's get. Right, so right now behind the wheel of the Ford Ranger Sport 4x4. Now, I said that there are a couple of things about this Sport that make it a lot more sportier than the other Sport variants in Ford's lineup compared to the Everest Sport and the Territory Sport. In this case, this has a 4x4. Because under the hood, you've got a 2-liter single-scroll turbo diesel engine that makes 170 horsepower and 405 Nm of torque, mated to that 4x4 system. Now, it's not just any 4x4. You've got actual drive modes right here to help you out with your drive. As I've mentioned earlier, you got Econ, Normal, Towing, and Slippery. Now, you also have a rear locking differential for more off-road fun. Now, I won't be explaining how that works exactly right here because I used these cars mostly for city use, because this is where you usually use your cars anyway. But if you're an off-roader, if you know, you know. All right, so all that power, it's mated to a 6-speed automatic transmission as compared to the Wildtrak 4x4 and the Ranger Raptor, which has a 10-speed. This one has a 6-speed. And for city driving, I'd say that it actually is much better than that one because it doesn't hunt through as many gears as it does in those cars, which I think are more mated for off-roading or for highway drives. With this one, with 6 speeds, you're assured that at least you know that you've got a very dependable transmission right here. Now, if you want to switch to 4H or 4L, all you got to do is just switch it right here. It switches on the fly. And then going to 4L, you have to adjust it a little bit more right there. So no need to actually just park it, put it in neutral. There's no ceremony for you to go through all that. This is just it's a grab and go type of pickup truck that we got right here. Driving the Ford Ranger Sport 4x4 around town, it's pretty tame. Now, unlike some other trucks out there, which really feels like a truck, I'm not faulting those models for how they are, but right here, it's all right. I mean, you can still feel a lot of the bumps on the road, right? This one, because you're way high up. So you got an independent suspension right there in front and leaf springs in the back. So that's the reason why you can hear my voice doing all of these things, because while I run through these rougher parts of the road, because it's definitely a truck, but overall it's a pretty smooth drive, and yeah, it's definitely workable if you want to take this out as a daily driver. Now, trucks these days, they're no longer relegated to being of agricultural or business purposes. People actually use these things as a family car. And for the ride quality and the drive, this is a-okay. All right, so turning radius of the Ford Ranger Sport 4x4 is, well, you're not going to get hatchback levels of maneuverability in this one. It is, after all, a really big truck. It's still classified as a mid-sized truck, but if you ask me, it's getting real close to being one of those those Ford F-150s. In fact, a lot of people actually modified their Ford Rangers to have a Ford F-150 nose, but please don't do that. Please don't. Acceleration here is as expected from a turbocharged diesel truck. You got a lot of torque. Now, you don't get a lot of high-end horsepower, but at least off the line, where it really matters for a truck, you got it. You can definitely haul a lot of stuff in this one. Hey, you can even haul your yacht if you got one. Well, why would you get this? Now, one of the better reasons to get a Ford Ranger on top of the, or instead of the other trucks in the market, one of its main selling points is, of course, well, it's NVH and ride quality. Now, this is a diesel, and you've got a hulking diesel engine right there in front, and you can still hear a little bit of the clatter permeating through the cabin, but it's in a nice muted way, unlike some other trucks. I mean, you can still hear the clatter right there, especially when you're accelerating and when you're starting this up, cold starting in the morning, but it's fine. Plus, the suspension is actually trying to be more on the floaty side instead of trying to be more aggressive and all out like that, but this is all right, as well as the sound insulation. The sound quality inside, I mean, it tries its best to keep the outside world separated from you by keeping the noise outside. I mean, you got some motorcycles all around. I can barely hear them. So yes, it's one of the Ford Ranger's better selling points. Oh. Now, when it comes to fuel economy, that's, I think, one of the reasons why a lot of people are also getting trucks as daily drivers, apart from the fact that they're a few ways more affordable than actual SUVs. Now, out in the city, we tested this out on heavy holiday traffic. It's insane. You get 8 kilometers per liter in the city. And on the highway, I was able to get 14 to 15 kilometers per liter. Diesel is a really very frugal way to get around town, if you can call this large hulking truck frugal. Safety features include multiple airbags. You got a rear camera with some guidelines right here. You don't get any blind spot monitoring system or your cross traffic alert or any of that advanced driver assist systems that Ford has on their higher trims. But you do get some cruise control right here, which is very useful, especially when going out on the highway. It's very simple. This truck's very simple. You've got hill hold assist. You've got downhill control system right there, traction control. And yeah, that's basically everything that you need out of a truck. You got it right here, and nothing that you don't. Because, when it comes to safety features, a lot of people would probably be going for the higher trims like the Wildtrak or the Ranger Raptor anyway. But if all you need is definitely a daily driver truck, this is the perfect blend for me. And this is at the same time with the 4x4 system. If you want to take this outside or out of town or going off-roading or even overlanding, this is a good truck. Pricing for the Ford Ranger Sport 4x4 starts at $1,389,000 for the 4x2 variant. And if you want to get this one as reviewed, the full fat version, 1,504,000 pesos, which makes it quite a few ways more affordable than the Ford Ranger Wildtrak 4x4, but still not as affordable as the bare bones XL 4x4, which a lot of people are looking for these days. So if you're looking for that particular variant and are unable to do so because all of the overlanders bought it out, this might be a good option. You do get an automatic transmission instead of a manual, and you get a few more niceties inside, like a better gauge cluster, a larger touch infotainment system, and of course soft touch materials, which you would really appreciate. So there you have it, folks. That's our full review of the Ford Ranger Sport 4x4. It's got everything you need and nothing that you don't. Plus, it's got some additional extra niceties that I absolutely love, like the blacked out grille, the blacked out badges, but I wish it did have some blacked out wheels as well to go with it, and it will match all the other sport models in Ford's lineup. But I want to know what you think. Drop me a comment in the comment section down below. Tell me how this stacks up against the other trucks that you might want in your list. And subscribe to our channel and hit that notification icon so you wouldn't miss any of our videos. This has been Roy Roberts from Zigwheels.Ph. See you guys next time.